Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cúilín Media. I am joined here by Liam White. The two of us are going to kick the show off, and then hopefully we'll get Aaron and Matthew along to join us at some point of the show. But we are going to run through all of the action from the Gaelic Games world across a very, very busy weekend. I mean, Liam, let's be honest. If we're talking club championships compared to intercounty, there's nothing like trying to cover the club championships in terms of volume of games.
There's absolutely no comparison whatsoever, to be honest with you. The intercounty season is much easier to cover, to be honest, because like whatever about say covering the games in Munster or Leinster, or say in the hurling, you're covering 2 games there and maybe 3 games there. That's 5 games, whereas you go into each one of those counties, there could be 5 games to cover in one county, 3 to cover in another, 6 to cover in another. You nearly have no time to go through all of them. But do you know what? We'll do the best we can, and we'll knock a laugh out of some results that have already gone against some of our predictions this weekend. But as the great Shane Stapleton once said with Michael Vernick, we put our name on the block, and we've stuck it out there.
Yeah.
You know,
once we get them wrong, there'll be plenty of people queuing up to take shots at us for the ones we got wrong. And to help us go through it all, we're calling in the squad as well. We've got Aaron Prendergast joining us here. Aaron, good to have you with us. I was mentioning there's nothing like covering club championship, is there, for volume, like in terms of the amount of games, the amount of competitions. I mean, just reading through the posts that Matthew put together for the Statsman page and for Cúilín Media, I mean, it was seriously hard picking through all them notes, trying to pick which games to cover.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, it definitely felt like a weekend where club championships came alive and everything else. Like, there was a lot to go through. Obviously, the Waterford final, some big games in Kilkenny, Kerry club semi-finals, some big games obviously in Dublin as well. And then some interesting games in Offaly as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to go through. Certainly, probably can't imagine we'll get through absolutely everything in the show, but definitely anyone who's tuning in, do let us know in the comments as well, like what games you watched. Let us know as well what talking points you had, and yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, all that jazz as well.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. For anybody new to the channel, the ticker down the bottom there will tell you how we run things here. So anything that you want to highlight, any game that you want to highlight, any competition that you want to highlight, because what we are mentioning there, it's really, really hard to cover everything. It's really hard to make sure that you covered every county to a satisfying level. So please do let us know if we missed the competition, if we missed the cup, if we missed the goal, if we missed the score. And yeah, let's dive right in. Peter asking about, is Matthew still with Sarah's backroom team? I think he'll answer that himself if he jumps into the call with us, hopefully over the course of the episode. And by God, we're going to need him when it comes to stats coming down the episode. But let's start there. Aaron, you mentioned it. Ballygunner continue to dominate. Unbelievable stuff from them. The Waterford Senior Hurling Championship Final 2025. Ballygunner 235. Mount Sion 116. Ballygunner make it 12 Waterford Senior Hurling Championships in a row. Lads, when it comes to dominance, few do it like Ballygunner.
Yeah, absolutely. No, like I was at another game today while this was happening, but I could just see the message in the group chat earlier saying, I think our predictions for Waterford is safe for now, because what was it, 2-13 to 6 points at one stage in the first 20 minutes or something like that. But yeah, for Ballygunner, it's a fantastic achievement to get 12 in a row, winning a county final by 22 points, and especially given the way Mount Sion won the semi-final as well. I didn't expect maybe this to be an easy game for Ballygunner, and especially the way they, I would say, probably fell over the line in their own semi-final. But yeah, look, they turned it up. They turned the style up here. Pádraig Mahoney with 11 points. Desi Hutchinson with 1-6 from play. Patrick Fitzgerald scored 1-3. Yeah, I believe that's now, is it 65 or 66? No, 66 games unbeaten now in Waterford, which is just an absolutely insane record, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, they're going to go into the Munster Championship now. They're going to be definitely one of the favourites for the All-Ireland now. There's going to be no question about that. Yeah, look, probably expected. Probably nobody would have been expecting them to not win the Waterford Championship this year, but regardless, they have to go out and do it either way. And I mean, they won the intermediate, wasn't it, just last weekend as well? And they were in a junior final as well. So there's a lot of great work going in at the club at the moment.
Oh, there certainly is. But Interestingly, right, Liam, you highlighted it really well there. Ballygunner's dominance is off the scale. They are an unbelievable club. You know, the talent that they produce year in, year out, the teams that they produce, the players that they produce. But there is an alternate view on Ballygunner's success. You cannot deny how impressive it is. You cannot deny how legendary it is. 12 Waterford titles in a row is sensational. But there is an alternate view. As expressed there by Jerry, says Ballygunner's dominance in Waterford is holding the county back overall. They have won 12 in a row, and now they have 2 teams in the Waterford Senior Championship for next year. Peter also says, lads, Waterford club hurling needs an urgent SOS. Aaron, I'd love to get your opinion on that. In general, do you think, is it holding Waterford back?
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like, I did watch this game. I did watch the final. Now, I wouldn't watch Waterford club hurling week in, week out. So only Waterford fans who probably go to the games week in, week out can probably truly answer that. But to be honest, like, this game was over probably from about a minute when Desi Hutchinson got the goal. Like, he got the goal inside a minute. And after that, like, it was just like, you know, this is like a classic, you know, boxing match, you know, a knockout blow inside a minute. You know what I mean? Like, Ballygunner were just rampant. And like, when you look at some of the results that they've had, like throughout the championship, like, they're putting teams to the sword left, right and center. Like, they're dominating teams, they're winning games very, very comfortably. I definitely think it is something that they should look at. But again, what can you do? Like, are people going to say splitting Ballygunner in 2 or something like that? Is that what people are gonna start mentioning? Like, I think the onus has to be on the other clubs as well. And for as good as Ballygunner were today, like, I did think Mount Sion were quite poor, to be honest with you. They were very, very flat out of blocks. I thought, like, given what Ballygunner do and given how explosive they are with Desi Hutchinson, you know, they had Kevin Matney who went off injured after 5 minutes, and you were thinking, right, there's a player. Obviously, no one wants injuries, but that's a player going off for Ballygunner. Owen Cuddihy comes on, hits 3 points, looked like, you know, like, completely slotted in perfectly. So I think the onus is on the other clubs as well. But Ballygunner are super, super dominant. Like, 12 in a row is unheard of, really. So. So yeah, I think the onus is on the other clubs. Well, I don't know what you lads think. Like, what can you do, really? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know, I think I did hear now. I don't know if this is true that Ballygunner have another team in the championship, or something like that.
Jer says here, could next year's final actually be Ballygunner A versus Ballygunner B? And I'm going to throw that question to the final member. He's here. Matthew. Joining us. Matthew, we were just discussing Ballygunner and their sensational win. I mean, we were saying there, when it comes to dominance, few do it like Ballygunner, but then that there's an alternate view that it's almost holding back Waterford hurling in other aspects.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say, look, I was at the Stars and Glen Rovers game. That's why I'm so late to the podcast, so I have to put that out there.
Peter was asking about you, saying, is he still with the Stars backroom team?
Exactly, yeah. But for Ballygunner, jumped into your conversation there on the A and B teams, and look, that is a bad look for Waterford hurling in many ways. Like, I know, look at it from my own county, the highest B team is actually in the 4th tier of CORK hurling. So to have a second team in the 1st tier of Waterford hurling, it is really, really bad looking. Look, Ballygunner are clearly the best team in it, and Mount Sion didn't really put up much anything as I've seen online. The thing is, actually, I watched the De La Salle game in the semi-final last week, and De La Salle probably should have won that game. Desi Hutchinson gets 2 late goals, and ultimately Ballygunner get over the line, and they were kind of lucky to do so. But what I noticed about this might be a bit pernickety, but I looked at the end of the Mount Sion game last week against Rowan Moore. I was live on TG Car. I didn't watch the game. I was watching the full Ballygunner game, but I watched the end of it on TG Car, and I noticed the Mount Sion players celebrating like they won the All-Ireland. I know it's a rivalry against Rowan Moore, but I'm thinking, you're facing one of the best team in Waterford next week. Why are you celebrating so wildly? Like, you know, it's just like, you have a final next week, you have to prepare for it. And it just looked like, by the look of the scoreline anyway, and the fact that we're way, way ahead after about 20 minutes of the game was over before it nearly even started. you just have to question kind of the mentality with some of the Waterford teams, with the exception of De La Salle. To be fair, De La Salle really put it up to them last week. But look, I think it's probably a bad thing for Waterford hurling that you have such an absolute dominant figure in the sport as well. It's only beneficial if they win multiple All-Irelands. Let's call a spade a spade. I know this is kind of, again, predicting on the likes of Ballygunner, but they've only won one All-Ireland in their kind of periods of dominance. I don't think that's really enough to write a home about. And in all fairness, I know they won 3 months of titles in a row until they were stopped by SARS last season. But is that really enough to constitute a team being so far ahead in the county? It probably isn't. And it isn't helping anybody else's cause by having a B team in the A Championships. What's that saying to the rest of the Waterford County? What's that saying to the likes of Roamore? What's that saying to De La Salle? What's that saying to Ferrybank? What's it saying to the rest of the Waterford Championship that you can have a B team just waltz into the championship like that? I mean, I think it's wrong at so many levels. In all fairness, there is positives. I get there is positives, but I just think for the competition for the Waterford Championship, people look at that every single season and think, what is the point of watching it? Because I think the most beneficial thing that could have happened to Waterford actually was De La Salle winning last week and holding on. But obviously they didn't do it. Ballygunner got the scare, and they weren't going to get a scare today. So look, I just think the B team thing, that probably epitomises what Waterford hurling is right now.
And interestingly as well, Matthew Jer says Ballygunner have only won one All-Ireland club semi-final even. So it's not a case of that they've even been getting to the finals and losing. They have tended to slip up either in the semi-final stages, which is where they lost to Thomas's. That was one that really jumps out, where that was an All-Ireland there to be won by them. And like that was a year that Ballyhale had been taken out early doors and by O'Loughlin Gaels. That was an All-Ireland that I think, looking back on, if I was in the Ballygunner side, I'd be thinking that's one that we should have won. But then again, as Peter says, he says Harry Ruddle's lucky goal, that was it. So maybe a bit of luck in the one that they actually did win.
Yeah,
but then again,
probably show, just on that as well. Like it probably shows that it doesn't help them as well. Like with them being so dominant, you know, that way.
It's like Ballymacarbery in the LGFA, like 42 LGFA Waterford titles in a row, and they hadn't really converted it to All Ireland success.
Yeah.
100%. And John, it is. I don't see them throwing an actual second senior team in. It's sort of similar to us because we won the Offaly Senior B Championship the last 2 years, but we didn't put forward a second senior team into the Senior A because it would just make no sense whatsoever. So I think Ballygunner now need to think about this and say, we can't just throw a second, because then what, you're going to have a Ballygunner versus Ballygunner final. Who gets medals? Who doesn't get medals? You know, it'd be so stupid, to be honest with you. But then again, look, the sad reality is it's like what Mourinho said a couple of years ago when he said the teams that can compete for the Premier League are Man City A and Man City B. Realistically, who can compete for the Waterford Championship? Ballygunner A and Ballygunner B, and De La Salle maybe because they put up fights in last weekend, but that's about it really.
Yeah. But again, I do think with Ballygunner, it's like you have to catch them on the hop as well, because there's no question about it. Ballygunner have the Waterford Hurling Championship completely on lockdown, like 12 championships in a row. And the other thing is as well, Aaron, you're looking at the result that they pulled off there against Mount Sion. 2 goals and 35 points they rack up, absolutely unheard of in 60 minutes. But then on top of that, look at the players they have coming through. Cormac Spain, like Patrick Fitzgerald is still a youngster. Like, this success isn't going anywhere. And for Waterford Hurling, they need more people. They need more clubs challenging this Ballygunner dominance, because the rivalry is how you get the best possible county team, when you have the most clubs pushing each other on. Whereas Ballygunner have just completely had this championship on lockdown now.
Yeah, absolutely, they have. Like, and even as I was saying earlier, like Owen Cuddihy, who came on for Kevin Mahoney as well, who went off like after a couple of minutes with an injury. Like, he was very impressive as well. You obviously seeing Pat Fitzgerald in there, you know, like obviously young lad still. Obviously, he's been in the team a couple of years now. He scored 1-3. So yeah, the conveyor belt is incredible. You know, like, it's mad. Like, you see some people on Twitter saying, can they just put Ballygunner into the Munster Senior Hurling Championship for next year instead of Waterford? Because do you know what I mean? Like, and it does seem to be that, like, watching Desi Hutchinson in a Ballygunner shirt, over the last couple of years is completely different to him in a Waterford shirt. You know, like he has that explosive rawness where he's cutting off the edges, like he's so skillful as well on the ball, where he's just like very direct and driving at players. We haven't seen enough of him do that with Waterford in the last couple of years. I'm not entirely sure why that is. But him in a Ballygunner shirt is phenomenal. And it was very evident from that opening goal. And as you said, like Cormac Spain, obviously there was a shout to Harry Ruddle there as well. So like there's so many players that just keep on making the breakthrough. But look, as much as it's a problem for Waterford, it's great for the county of Waterford to have, you know, they've clearly got players kind of coming through there who, you know, can go on to the county panel potentially in the next couple of years. So whilst there are positives or whilst there are negatives for like the competitiveness of the Waterford Hurling Championship, there is positives still for the Waterford county team maybe in the next few seasons.
Well, it means that there's a conveyor belt there. Jer says, a Waterford fan, brackets from Mount Sion, said to me after the minor All-Ireland that Spain will find it difficult to break into the Ballygunner team. I mean, that isn't a player of his talent, and he's not even guaranteed to get into the senior team. But the question is, and Liam, I'll go to you for this one for obvious reasons, as you'll see, Matthew. But Liam, it's like, don't mean a thing without the ring. That's out. That like Ballygunner, their goals are clear. They want to win more All-Ireland Club Championships. They want more than just the one that they won a few years ago. How do you see them translating this success to an All-Ireland potentially down the line? Because that's the goal for Ballygunner. They're not in this to win a Waterford Championship or Munster Championship. They're in this because they want to win the All-Ireland. How do you see them going up against now other champions from other counties after this?
Well, I suppose they need to be going into every single game with the mentality of we are the best team, and that's that. Because, like, and they need to go into every single game with a fighting mentality more than anything. Because for me, that's the big reason why Sarsfields bet them in the Munster final last year. Sarsfields were hungrier on the day. There was more grit about them. They wanted to win the dirty ball. They wanted to go at them at every single opportunity. And Ballygunner were almost scared in a way that somebody was actually putting it up to them. Same with St Thomas's 2 years ago. I know they won it on a penalty shootout, and look, a lot of that is luck at the end of the day, and St Thomas's are a good team. But again, when a team puts up a fight to them, I know they got over the semi-final last weekend, but when a team actually puts up a bit of a fight to them, it's almost like they don't know what to do. And that's kind of going back to the point of it doesn't do them any good that they're winning the Waterford Championship very easily. Like, I haven't, like, look, I'm the same as Aaron said, I wouldn't watch a lot of the games in Waterford, but a big reason for it is because I don't think it's a great championship at all. You know, I think that the level between Ballygunner and the rest of them is so far that it's nearly not worth watching. Do you know what it is? I'd turn on Clubber just to see what the score is in a Ballygunner game, and you would just see it's like, I don't know, 3-18 to 11 points with 25 minutes to go, and you're just like, what is the point in watching that? What is the point of turning that on? But yeah, I just think they need to get a bit more grit about them. I think they need to go into every single game and say, right, not every single game is going to be like the Waterford. Actually, do you know what it is? From now on, no game is going to be like the Waterford Championship. Like, no matter if it's Na Piarsiagh or if it's Doon or if it's even Kilmallock or anyone else from Limerick, whoever they face coming out of Limerick is going to be tough, and they're going to be hard, and they're going to want to beat them without doubt. And Matthew, you could probably tell me, I can't tell off the top of my head, who do Ballygunner play if they get through?
So if Ballygunner beat the Limerick champions, it's the CORK champions in the semi.
Okay. Well, like, regardless if it's Sarsfields, Middleton, or anyone else, Glen Rovers, they need to go into that game and just say, we're the best team. We are going to fight harder than you today, because winter hurling is completely different to summer hurling. You know, you have to be dogged. You need big lads in to step in and take a few belts, take a few hits, pull on the ground. They need to do that. The silky, lovely hurling that they play is not going to work all the time. And it's going to be similar if they get out of Munster, that they need to go into the All-Ireland series, regardless of who it's against, from the North, from Galway, or from Leinster. They need to just simply say, we are the best team. No team in the country is better than us. We have the best players, and we're going to prove it for 60 minutes. It's just belief in themselves more than anything. And they need to get that taught into their head that that really no game from now on is going to be like the Waterford Championship. They're not going to get it their own way from here on out.
Well said. Aaron, I'd love to get your 2 cents on that in terms of how do they translate this now to further success? Like, is it a bad thing that they've just rolled over Mount Sion in the final and with no competition against them?
Yeah, I think they need to, like, do you remember a couple of years ago when they won the county title, and I can't remember who it was in an interview afterwards was saying like everyone was writing us off. Everyone was disrespecting us. And even in this game as well, they played like even though no one was writing them off going into this game, but they played like a team where there is a siege mentality. And I don't know, maybe if they hear what people are saying about the Waterford Championship and having two teams in the Championship and everything else, maybe, you know, they're seeing what people are saying. But I think they need to build on that going into Munster. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody will be saying going into Munster, it's all well and good winning Waterford the way that you are, but you need to go out there and show it in Munster. And as Matthew was saying, like, they've been so dominant and they are such a brilliant team, but their success doesn't reflect on it. Do you know what I mean? Throughout Munster and All Ireland. And look, there is other reasons for it. There's a lot of other good teams out there, obviously. Not to put Matthew on the spot, but the likes of Sarsfields and a few others that have obviously beaten them in previous years. So, you know, like, so there are some good teams there, but I'd very much kind of echo what Liam said. I think they just need to back themselves. It needs to be a bit more of a mentality within the group, a bit of a siege mentality maybe, and just do what they do best, because they've more, the quality's there really. It's just the hard work, isn't it? That's what just needs to follow. If they have that with the talents, then I think they should come through Munster again, you know.
Interestingly as well, our good pal Jer from Clare, he's picked all 4 Clare teams to trouble Ballygunner, all 4 teams that are in the semi-finals. But Jer, we would very much appreciate your input for this next part of the show, because we are going to move on. Massive congratulations to Ballygunner, a sensational win, 235 to 116. They claimed their 12th Waterford Hurling Championship in a row. We'll move to the Clare Senior Hurling Championship quarterfinals, and the results for these games are as follows. Clooney Quinn 120, Fecal 111, so that's the reigning champions dumped out of the championship. Era Og Ennis 321, Ina Kilnamona 117, Kilmaley 121, 6 Mile Bridge 18, and Ballier 213, Clonlara 16 points. Who will I come to first? Bing bang boom de boo. I will go to Matthew first. Matthew, unbelievable. Fecal, the reigning defending Clare champions, are no more.
They are. No, it's unbelievable to say that. Obviously, SARS did come across Fecal last year. Decent team, a good, aggressive, I would say, kind of team. Adam Hogan and David Quilligan on that side, and they end up coming a cropper to Clooney Quinn. I don't know. That was a bit of an unexpected result, and considering actually the losses of the Clare quarterfinals, like the 4 quarterfinals, you had 6 Mile Bridge, who were in the final last year. You have Fecal, who won the championship last year. You have Ina Kilnamona, who personally were my favourites to win the Clare championship. Located on the outside, obviously, and Clonlara, who reached the Munster final against Ballygunner a few years back. So that's 4 big dogs out of the championship, and that's really, really big for Clare hurling. Kilmaley, I don't think much people would have had any notice to them. For them to hammer 6 Mile Bridge the way they did was very, very impressive. Clooney Quinn, I'm hearing they have Peter Duggan in the team, and they have a few others as well. So judging by that, it's not really a shot that they overcame Fecal today. Like, Fecal won their first championship in a long while in Clare last season. So obviously there was going to be a dip that was going to come, and it did come today. Obviously, Ina Kilnamona have the likes of David Fitzgerald and obviously the McCarthy's in that team, and Jason and Aidan in that. But they came up a cropper against Era Og Ennis, so the likes of Shane O'Donnell. So look, that's not really a shock when you consider it. But I think Ina Kilnamona, with the players that they do have, it's probably now or never maybe to try and claim that championship. And then when you look at Clonlara losing to Ballier, obviously there was more headlines in terms of that. I don't know, did you all see the Tony Kelly goal in this game? It was absolute magic. And the guy, even in an off year for Clare, he has proven in the club championship that he is still one of the best players in the country. Like, that was some goal, just running down the sideline like it was just at his ease, and just putting it beyond the goalkeeper. Like, it was just an incredible finish. And Ballier will definitely be up there in terms of contending for the Clare championship. I think probably Clooney Quinn and Kilmaley on the outside looking in anyway would be possible underdogs in it. Era Og Ennis and Ballier probably would be favourites. Judging by Ballier's experience in these situations, and judging by they have one of the best players in the country at their disposal, I would say Ballier are the favourites for the Clare championship, but a lot of big dogs going out of it. So quite an interesting weekend of Clare county action.
Certainly. So Aaron, I'll come to you next. the Tony Kelly goal, is that your personal highlight from the Clare quarterfinals, or is there anything else that caught your eye?
Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal goal. Like, it's vintage Tony Kelly. Like, we've seen that time and time again. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a norm, really. It'd be great to obviously see Ballygunner on a back of, back in the mix, maybe, if they can get out of Clare. But what's actually interesting is, and I probably should have mentioned this on the last podcast, but funny enough, I was at a wedding in Doolin in Clare a couple of months ago, and I was chatting to a few people from Clare down there, and they were all adamant and telling me that Clooney Quinn were going to win the Clare Hurling Championship. Like following on from their league campaign or something of that nature. So it's worth mentioning. Do you know what I mean? Like, taking secondhand information, but seeing them kind of going and going on a run since has been interesting to see. So, but yeah, like, looking at Clare over the last couple of years, there has been a lot of shocks and surprises. There have been a lot of teams who've kind of come along and won it for the first time in a long time. So, be interesting to see if that trend follows this year.
Certainly will be, and that's really interesting information. Liam, that Aaron was saying there about the insider scoop, you could say, on Clooney Quinn, and taking it from Jer's comment as well. I mean, to have two inter-county stars of the stature of Ryan Taylor and Peter Duggan, I mean, again, that's a serious spine to be able to build your midfield and forward line around.
Yeah, absolutely. No, sure. We've seen what Peter Duggan especially can do with one hand, never mind with two hands, over the last couple of years for Clare. And yeah, look, John, it's brilliant to see teams like this taking down a big dog. I say big dog in the terms of like Fecal winning it last year. You know, it's the confidence that you can get from knocking out the previous year's champions, regardless of, I think there's a comment there saying that they were missing a couple of players today as well. Was Quilligan out and Shane McGrath was out, but like, still, to knock out the county champions from the year before, and by 9 points as well, is very, very good going. And that could give you such confidence going into a county championship semi-final. But yeah, and interesting even seeing there as well that Tony Kelly's only score from the game was that incredible goal. But it just shows you that even the best players, not just in Clare, but in the country, can have an off day, but can still produce a goal like that. And that's what makes him such a special player, that he can have a so-called off day, or maybe a day where he's not getting all the scores from play, or he's not putting over frees from 70 yards out, or he's not dribbling past 3 or 4 lads like he's Messi and putting the ball over the bar over his shoulder or something like that. But he can still have a moment in the game that still gets his side over the line. And for me, that's kind of the trademark of a really, really good club player. The likes of Peter Duggan, the likes of Tony Kelly, producing for their club when they probably needed it the most, or when their backs are up against it the most. And yeah, look, I think the Clare Championship now, it's wide open. You know, there's no, for me now, I don't think there's any favourites in it. I think it's wide open. Any team can win it. Every single one of them will be fancying their chances. Even seeing, I saw it earlier today, Clonlara being knocked out, you know, a team that, like Matthew mentioned, winning the Clare Championship a couple of years ago, getting to the final, and in dramatic circumstances in the semi-final that they won it as well. Having the likes of John Conlon there, you know, it's brilliant to see that it's a very competitive championship in comparison to Waterford. Really, it's complete opposite to Waterford, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, it's brilliant to see, and I'm actually thoroughly looking forward to seeing the conclusion of the Clare Championship now. When whoever comes out of Clare now, you know, run at Munster, you just never know.
Yeah, you know, you really don't. Like, it's a real Shark Tank when you jump in there. I mean, Ballygunner already booked their place in. That's one of the heavyweights returning again. So God knows who's going to join them, but they are going to be stacked. Interestingly enough, Jer has given his prediction, so as to who he thinks will win the Clare Championship. He says Éire Óg Ennis are the form team at the moment. It's wide open, wouldn't rule out any team, but Clooney Quinn would be the outsiders at the moment. Very interesting. And Jer, as far as people I know are Clare fans, Jer definitely is probably the biggest Clare fan I know. And well, I've never met Buff Egan, so we'll see what happens. But Jer, I'd back you to know more about Clare hurling than Buff Egan anyway. We'll run through quickly some of the Tipperary and Galway results together, because some of these caught my eye. So we'll start off with the Tipperary ones. So Tipperary, Turles Sarsfields 25 points, Cashel and Cormac's 119, Nina Éire Óg 223, Mullinahone 211, Drum and Inch 318, JK Bracken's 117. And then moving to the Galway Championship, Kilmore Daly 117, Kilconnor on 116, Tommy Larkin 16 points, Ormore Marie Tommy Larkin's 19 points, Ormore 16, Sarsfields 118, Capatagal 18 points. Liam, I'll go to you first. Is there any results there that jump out at you?
I suppose Turles Sarsfield being out of the Tipperary Championship is a bit of a shock. I was chatting to Ronan Maher there just was it last month? Jesus, the weeks have flown by. I think it was last month anyway, or it was a couple of weeks ago anyway. Because there was a homecoming from by An Garda Síochána in Laois, because he works there as a guard celebrating his All Ireland win. And I was chatting to him about the club championship. Ironically, said to him like, "Oh, we'll see you in a few months or whatever." But I suppose it's a bit of a shock just because Turles Sarsfield, they have a lot of really good players in their ranks. They've Pádraig Maher as their coach this year, and to see them being knocked out fairly early is a small bit of a surprise. And it's probably unfortunate that they get a win like that over Cashel King Cormac, scoring 25 points, and yet they're still out of the championship is probably not a nice feeling for them. I suppose Capitagle losing in Galway as well, beating finalists last year, losing as well. It's for them. Look, I still think St Thomas's are the strongest side in Galway. Regardless, they had a win over Athenry today as well by 3 points. A very closely fought game, but I suppose Capitagle maybe losing and Turles being knocked out. Nina Airog, I think, could be a team that could be underrated and could be a potential threat to win the Tipperary Championship this year. I think the Tipperary Championship is wide open. I wouldn't say the Galway Championship isn't wide open, but I still think St Thomas's are probably the strongest side in it. But in terms of tip, I don't know who'll win that. It's very hard to predict at the moment.
Would you like to give a comment as well on how we're one bad Kilcormac performance away from looking quite stupid now? Look, we played Shinrone there just a couple of hours ago. Thanks. Look, to cut a long story short, I think Shinrone can walk away very unlucky not to have won the game. I don't think we played to our best at all. Really, I think we only had a couple of players that probably played out of their skin. Charlie Mitchell, I thought, had a fantastic game, got a great goal that kind of got us back into the game. Adam Screeney got 3 points from play, or was it 4? I think it was 3 points from play he got. The ball wasn't probably delivered to him as much as maybe we would have liked. Had a chance to win it at the end. But the draw now means we finished second in the group, in Group 2, and we're going to be facing Ballygunner now in 2 weeks' time in a repeat of last year's final. And look, Ballygunner lost to Burr yesterday, and they've not been having the best of seasons themselves. And this could be the game that really both clubs probably need, to be honest with you, because we've both probably not been at our best so far this season, if we're being quite honest with you, especially us. We've not been playing to the same levels as we did last year or even the year before. It'll be a feisty enough contest in 2 weeks' time between us. Not much love between us on the pitch, so it'll be an interesting enough contest. But the result of that, Shinrone will be playing Kildare in the quarterfinals as well, which will be an interesting contest as well. Belmont are into the semi-finals after playing a relegation final last year. They're in a semi-final now, so fair play to them. And Burr are in the semi-finals. So the Offaly Championship has gotten interesting, but I might have to quit Cúilín Media in 2 weeks if we get knocked out by Ballygunner. It wouldn't be a strong start, but I was feeling pretty relaxed down. I have to say, your text into the group saying that I could rest easy because Ballygunner were on their way to Waterford. That did make me relax a little bit. But I will come to you lads next just for this section. So because you have so many games, because you have so many things to cover, just around the grounds, hurling edition. So I'll come to you kind of one by one, lads. What is it? One more personal one that you've spotted, one more personal result, personal game that you've spotted that you think that's worth mentioning in the pod. Matthew, I'll come to you first.
I suppose Liam did mention the Galway Championship. I think Loughrea lost earlier in their game, so I think that'll be definitely one worth mentioning. And Capitagle losing as well, which probably epitomises that St Thomas's are very, very near in the Galway Championship at this present moment in time. And you look at the Galway Championship as well, unlike Waterford. I mean, Waterford's being used as the example, the opposite example in many ways. But Galway Championship is open, and it is very, very interesting to see who will go on and win the championship in overall circumstances. So I have to give a mention, I suppose, to the CORK Championship. I know I will just explain the rubrics behind it because I am part of doing a bit of stats for SARS. So the quarterfinals and the semi-finals was named today, and one result really caught my eye, and it was Blackrock beating Douglas 33 points to 11. That put Blackrock into the semi-finals straight away, and it probably just epitomises Douglas, or I don't know where they're at this present moment in time. Like, they're out of the championship now. They keep getting battered. Like, they got battered by SARS last year by around the same margin, 22 points. And they're a big club. They're a city club. They have a lot of underage success. You just wonder what is going on there. But look, they're out of the championship now. So the quarterfinals in the CORK Premier Senior Hurling Championship. So on one side of the draw, you have Blackrock will face the winners of Glen Rovers and Middleton in one semi-final. The other semi-final is going to be very interesting. So SARS play Charleville in the quarterfinal, and the winner of that game will play the game between St Finbarrs and Emo Kelly. That's the other quarterfinal. So very interesting. Look at the CORK Hurling Championship right now as well. Very tight to call a winner. I don't think anybody would put out their chest and predict a winner of the CORK Championship, even though there are a few favourites and stuff like that. Emo Kelly obviously are defending champions, and they beat Muskerry recently by 11 points. But look, the CORK Championship should be very, very interesting in the next few weeks. And obviously on TG Car today, you see that SARS beat Glen Rovers by 4 points. An interesting enough game. So yeah, the CORK Championship is hotting up, and other championships as well. I looked at the tip draw as well. Third of SARS is being out of it. You know what? For the tip championship, I have to say, I'd fancy, looking at it so far, I think Nina Rogue, what Liam was saying. They have Jake Morris, they have Sam O'Farrell, they have some very, very good players. So I think Nina Rogue are definitely up there. And also Tumavara, I know they finished second in their group, and they will get less of a seeding and draw for the knockout stage. But they have a certain Dar McCarthy in their team. They have a young team. They have a very, very talented group. And they have history. They do have history in the Tipperary Championship. So the teams to watch and tip, I think, are Nina Rogue and Tumavara, but should be interesting in the next few weeks.
Very much so. I mean, Tumavara, when you remember, they have a forward as talented as he is and as confident as he is right now, fresh off the back of that All-Ireland final where, I mean, all the red cards would have been more than forgotten about when he puts in a performance like that. I mean, the penalty was one moment where it was like everything's going right for him and for Tip here. Aaron, anything that caught your eye hurling-wise before we move on to a different code?
Yeah, like I suppose on Saturday, like I watched the Ballyhale Shamrocks game against Dixborough. And they were very impressive, to be fair. Like, it was very comfortable. It was 221 to 117. So it was like very impressive, really. Like, Dixborough probably weren't really in the game. There was a couple of moments where it looked like they would kind of come back into it. But Ballyhale just kind of kept them at arm's length. Owen Cody was very impressive. Brian Cody was also very impressive as well. Of course, not the Kilkenny legendary manager. There is also a hurler in there. I'm not too sure if he's a relation to Owen, but he's in the Ballyhale Shamrocks team. So he was actually probably their best player, to be honest. Joey Holden was very good as well. So yeah, dominant stuff from Ballyhale, and still confident they'll win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely would have a point to prove, because people are sleeping on Ballyhale Shamrocks here, and if they get going, they could take some stopping. Matthew has his hand up, which is unbelievably polite. Go ahead, sir.
we just have to mention, I have a bone to pick with the Kilkenny Championship. Of course, he's good at defending his prediction on Ballyhale, but any Kilkenny fans, please comment down below. Why are you still in the league phase at this present moment of time? Why haven't you moved into the Championship? I mean,
crazy.
It's a bit of a weird structure in Kilkenny. I have to say, because like a lot of championships have started, but Kilkenny, for some strange reason, they kind of intertwine their league and the championship, which is I don't know, it's a bit weird.
Oh, lads, like opening up the show is saying, like, doing your research for an inter-county episode versus a club episode is night and day. It is nothing like trying to figure out what stage every championship is at, because bear in mind, you're trying to cover 32 championships for 4 codes. You're trying to figure out what stage they're all at. Some of them are already done. Some of them haven't even begun yet. And you're trying to figure out, how is this all going to map out and get to the same level? If I was put in charge, give me a magic wand, I'd make them all start at the same time. I wouldn't make them all have the same structure, but make them all start at the same time so that we have a decent idea who's at what stage, rather than this kind of almost where they get drip fed to us, like where half of them get up and running and then half of them haven't started yet, and then half of them are already done by the time that half of them start. So that would be a change I'd be looking to make. But again, when is that ever going to happen? Liam, your final thoughts on the hurling action before we move on?
Yeah, I suppose to go with the Kilkenny Championship, and look, See, it's kind of hard to read into this result because it is the league phase of the championship, say, but O'Loughlin Gaels losing to Bennettsbridge by 18 points to 112. Now, I do have an old housemate from college who is from Bennettsbridge, who was at the Ireland match last night. And I was talking to him at half time when we were all depressed before Adamita saved all of our lives. But he'd said to me that Hugh Lawler and Paddy Deegan were rested. So maybe in a way, it's kind of hard to maybe judge that. But as he said to me as well, he was just happy that Bennettsbridge have now survived this year because they were worried about potentially going back down. But yeah, I suppose that one just kind of jumped out at me. And even though they were maybe missing those two players, and look, it is only the league phase of the championship, I still find it strange as well. I completely agree with Matthew, to be honest. It's a strange kind of setup, but it's still a result that might rock O'Loughlin Gaels, that might make them think, okay, we might be missing our two best defenders along with the Mikey Butlers and the Jordan Malloys, whatever, but we're missing two players and we're not able to win this game and only scoring 112 as well. They might want to look at that and think, right, we need to get better from here on out, especially after the way that they fought back to beat Ballyhale the week previous, or was it 2 weeks ago? Do you know, the performance levels was just not the same this week. But yeah, no, look, fair play to Bennettsbridge. It's a great win for them. O'Loughlin Gaels will try and forget about it and try and move on for the next day anyways. But yeah, one result I wanted to mention as well, just a high scoring game that happened up north. Dunloy 5-23, St John's 3 goals in 19. I wish that game was broadcast. Well, it probably was broadcasted somewhere, but Jesus, that would have been a cracking game to watch.
Yeah, no, that definitely was one that jumped off the score sheet to me, just looking through. Matthew, your post on Saturday, which, by the way, fair play for getting them posts up. I mean, the amount of studying I'd say them posts take. My personal highlight was Liam, that result. Then on top of that, you're looking at the LAOIS Championship, big win there for Cam Ross, big win for Rathdowney Errol. And then you've got obviously still Clough Ballacolla getting a victory there. Kind of nasty scenes at full time with that as well. They're the obvious ones to challenge, given that you're very close to it. Are they untouchable in LAOIS or
Clough Ballacolla?
Somebody beat them? Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're untouchable. Stephen Picky-Maher's not there this year. He's a big miss for them. They'd lost to Rathdowney Errol and Camross in their previous 2 games. So this win over the Harps was actually very, very badly needed, to be honest with you. And similarly enough for Camross, I was chatting to Dave Cully, their manager, a couple of days ago, and he said himself that had they lost to Clough Ballacolla, they'd have been out of the championship. So I suppose the two of them at the moment probably haven't been at their best all season, but Camross are starting to pick up a bit of form now. Obviously had a great win over Abbey League St. Lazarians, who themselves have had, like, they won the league earlier this year. They were in the final 2 years ago, but their championship form has fallen off a cliff. They drew with Castletown. I was actually ironically at their game against the Harps because I was doing some work for the radio station that night and it just happened to be on, so I said I'd go to it. And the Harps should have won that game by more. I think it was only 3 points in it in the end or something like that, but can't just remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they genuinely they looked well off the pace, and they've kind of looked well off the pace all season. Their previous game that they lost as well, they were well up at one stage and then they just capitulated as well. So yeah, they've not been going as well as I thought they might have. But look, I think ultimately it probably will still be Camross and Clough Ballacolla, but Rathdowney Errol put up a great fight to them last year, and they've already beaten Clough Ballacolla this year, so they'll be ones to certainly watch out for. But yeah, the LAOIS Championship, I think it'll be those 3, and if I was to throw in maybe another name, I'd probably say the Harps.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Harps definitely did put it up to Clough in that game, and that's why it was so close. Peter says Rathdowney Errol are due one. Where in LAOIS are the Harps? Off the top of the head, I honestly don't know. We just know them as the Harps, and off the dome, I definitely would have known that. To be honest, I probably just shouldn't have opened that comment. Anyway, we'll have a look now. We'll move over to football, and Aaron, me and you should be doing the heavy lifting here because we're moving to the Dublin Football Championship, because Dublin had its last round in the group stages of the Football Championship across this weekend. I was commentating on Saturday and Sunday, so I did 3 games in total. But here is the results put up by the WGA official Twitter page. You can see there, Group 1, Nafina beat Ballantyre St John's by 1 point, and that was a straight knockout game. Whoever won that went into the quarterfinals in second place in the group, behind Ballybowden St Enda's, who made it 3 from 3. They beat Vincent's 216 to 12 points. In Group 2, Ballymun finished strong to beat my club, Whitehall Columkill. I'm still heartbroken. 27 points to 118. We played well, but Ballymun just had a little bit too much for us going down the home stretch. Castleknock then beat Temple Oak 124 to 211 to qualify in second place behind Ballymun in that group. In Group 3, Lucan beat Raheny in what was a straight knockout game as well to claim second place, because Oola got 3 from 3, beating Thomas Davis 319 to 212. While finally in Group 4, you can see Kilmacud Crokes there with a very impressive win over Sylvester's 223 to 114. They also made it 3 from 3, while Clontarf saved their bacon. They needed to beat Jude's by at least 4 points to get into the next round, and they beat them by 4 points, 115 to 111. So Clontarf qualifying second. That means that the quarterfinals are as follows. Ballymun Kickham's are going to play against Na Fianna. Ballybowden St Enda's are against Castleknock. Oola are going up against Clontarf, and Kilmacud Crokes are going up against Lucan Sarsfields. Aaron, as a fellow Dub, what are your thoughts of the Dublin Championship so far?
Yeah, look, I was on mute there. Yeah, look, it's been very interesting so far, and like some very interesting results, to be fair. I think the best game probably the weekend was Na Fianna against Lucan Sarsfields, like or against Ballantyre St John's. Like they won it right at the death. And like you have to feel sorry for Ballantyre. Like they actually, like they clawed their way back into it. They got a penalty in the second half to bring it back, and then they were a point up going into the final couple of moments before Na Fianna were able to pull it back and win the game in injury time. So you feel for Ballantyre there. But yeah, no, the 2 games I mainly focused on were, I suppose, obviously the game that was on TG Cahir, like Whitehall and Ballymun Kickham's. And yeah, I think Seamus, you'd be eating your hair out a little bit. Like obviously I live in Whitehall as well, so I obviously wanted them to win as well. And you were kind of a little bit shocked, to be honest, because Ballymun were down to 14 men. Whitehall were 3 points up at one stage. Ballymun were struggling. But one name that you might be all familiar with, who basically won the game on his own, Dean Rock. I mean, like, what a player! Like, I mean, he still has it. He could still play for Dublin, I'm convinced. Get him back into the team, even though he's actually going to be in the backroom team. Funnily enough, because we just get him in the main team as well. He was phenomenal. So yeah, he was kicking 2-pointers. Like kind of going into the final couple of minutes, he kicked a couple of brilliant 2-pointers, and yeah. Whitehall, they kind of just ran out of steam a little bit, to be fair. Like I thought Enda O'Donnell was probably their best player. Very explosive. He was very good. Obviously, Cormac Costello had a couple of moments as well. Missed a few frees towards the end of the game. But yeah, huge for Ballymun. And to be fair to Ballymun, they showed a lot of character. Like, and their character has often been questioned over the last couple of years, especially with players getting older. Do you know that way? Like they still obviously have Dean Rock in there, Paddy Small, James McCarthy, but it has been in these kind of tight games where they've often kind of slipped up a little bit. So that was absolutely huge from absolutely right. Dean Rock and Cluxton could maybe both play, to be honest with you. And then yeah, like another big win by Oola as well, to be fair. Beating Thomas Davis by 10 points. They actually didn't have Con O'Callaghan. He didn't actually play in the game. They were still able to breeze through it. Charlie McMorrow, I thought, was their best player. He scored 5 points. He was very impressive, and he's definitely one to maybe keep an eye on for Dublin. Noel O'Callaghan with 1-2 as well. Cal Doran with 1-1. So it was a game that Oola didn't need to win. They could have lost this and still gone through, but big win. And then some other kind of big results as well, like big win for Kilmacud Crokes as well. Castleknock getting a huge win. And obviously, as you said, with Clontarf, like saving themselves towards the end. So, looking forward to the quarterfinals now.
Certainly so. And I am going to throw this back to you, Aaron, because just watching the games, like over the last 2 seasons, there's no question about it. 3 out of the last 4 seasons, there's been a Dublin club in the All-Ireland Club final. So Dublin have had a huge say on who's going to be the All-Ireland Club football champions. And looking at the championship this year, there are 3 teams who in their group have gone 3 from 3 and nobody's laid a glove on them. That's Kilmacud Crokes, Ballybowden St Enda's and Oola. All 3 of them look sensational right now. Which out of the 3 has impressed you the most so far?
I think they've all equally been impressive, haven't they? Like they've all gone about it the same way. Like I think you could pick any of them out. You know, like maybe you could edge towards Coola. Well, I mean, Kilmacud Crokes are the same as well. Like both have new managers, both have lost All Ireland winning club managers in recent years. In fairness to Ballybolden though as well, like Ballybolden probably don't. I know they've Colin Baskell in there, you know, and Ryan Baskell, but they don't probably have the county stars that Coola have and that Kilmacud Crokes have. And for Ballybolden to still be so consistent in, like, I feel like in a you could go back over the last 4 or 5 years, and Ballybolden are always just winning group games easily. And when you go back through their results, when they win games comfortably. It just seems to be when they fall behind in matches, they kind of lose a run of themselves. So maybe you look towards Ballybolden. They probably had a slightly tougher group as well, to be fair. So I think that maybe stands to them. But yeah, you would expect all three of them to be in the. I didn't actually see the quarterfinal draw, but I think they're all separate from each other. So you'd expect all three of them to be in the semis anyway.
Oh, they will be. There's no question about it in my mind. They're all in games where you expect them to win. Matthew, I'll go to you then next as someone from outside the championship, outside the Dublin Championship. Which out of them three, obviously assuming that one of the three of them wins it, which out of them three do you think, as someone outside the Dublin Championship, could have the biggest say on the All-Ireland Club Championship come the end of the season?
I think you have to say Kilmacud, to be honest with you. When you look at, I've seen the programme briefly for Kilmacud. They have the likes of Paddy O'Connor midfield, inter-county player from Sligo, Devin Burns in goal, who I really rate highly as a goalkeeper. Being down in Kerry, obviously, at underage, he was a very good shot stopper and very good at his distribution. Paul Mannion and Shane Walsh as well, they have some really, really good players, and they also have a bone to pick as well. That the fact that they lost the Dublin final while having an extra man last year, which I think they'll be kicking themselves about. Coola, with the greatest respect, I think Coola, they won their first Dublin Championship, if ever, or in a long time anyway, last season. So will they have the same will about them again this year? I'm not sure. So the fact that you said the other night, Seamus, said Austin O'Malley's now not in the management position for Coola. If that is correct, that is a big blow as well, in terms of them trying to develop. So I think you have to say Kilmacud Crokes are the favourites to go on and win it, in all honesty. When you look at the others there, Ballybolden, St Enda's, like, they're highly rated as well. They're normally thereabouts. It's going to be very, very hard to say who will win the championship. Ballymun, it's a hard one. Like Ballymun, it's kind of like their time has come and gone. But boy, what you guys were explaining about Dean Rock, it doesn't seem like he's aging at all. Look at him performing on the field. James McCarthy there as well. Dylan Keating, who I really rate as a club player as well. So they do have some good players, but are they at the lower end of their careers? It remains to be seen there. In terms of dark horses, look at like Luke at Sarsfield's got a very good result against Raheny today, a Raheny team that were knocking the door for so many seasons. I've been hearing outside the county, obviously. But will hurling take over and Luke at Sarsfield's, who have a very good hurling team as well? It remains to be seen there as well. Look at your Defina, probably, I think they're more of a hurling club as well. Castleknock possibly. So I think you'd have to look at probably Kilmacud Crokes, possibly Ballybolden. I think they'd be probably the two front runners. I know a lot of people might say Coola, but I just don't think they'll have the same will about them to go and win the Dublin Championship again. Once you do it once, that's fair enough. But then when you have to do it shockingly again, that could be the challenge, in all honesty. Like, I go across other sports. Like, you look at Leicester City in 2016, performed a miracle in the Premier League, and then they finished mid-table the next season. It could be the same with Coola. Not the exact same, but I think it could be the same thereabouts. So I think Kilmacud have to be the favourites when you look at the players that they have, when you look at the experience that they have in these sorts of situations as well. I think Kilmacud have to be the favourites.
Yeah. Liam, I'd be very interested to get your opinion, a fellow Leinster man, looking at who could come out of the Dublin Championship. Which one do you think would be the most intimidating for the other teams in the province?
Yeah, I have to agree with Matthew. I have to say Kilmacud Crokes. And I also kind of say this from the perspective of, I feel like Kilmacud are a team that will batter you when they get the chance to. You know, they are the team that will be absolutely ruthless. Whereas Coola last season, I mean, look, they won the Leinster Championship and they merited it. You know, they were the best side without question. But they bet Naas, which was their toughest challenge in Leinster, in my opinion, and they bet them away from home, which was a really impressive performance. but then they weren't great against Tullamore. Like, they gave up so much possession against them, probably gave up a few too many opportunities as well. Against St Mary's RD, they were comfortable, and then they let them back into the game and had to salvage a late win there. And even in the semi-final, I feel like if Kilmacud Crokes had played Coolara Strandhill in the All-Ireland semi-final, I feel like it would have been it could have been a battering, to be honest with you, without trying to be too disrespectful to Coolara. Credit to them for winning the Connacht Championship last year, but I just feel like Kilmacud would have had a bit more of a rootless side to them, whereas Coola just said, we need to get to the All-Ireland final, and that's that. And the same way in the All-Ireland final, they were ruthless in the first half, but then they let Eric O'Kieran back into it. I don't feel like Kilmacud would have done that. So, yeah, look, to echo what Matthew said, I think Kilmacud Crokes will be probably the strongest team to come out of Dublin. But look, it's not impossible for Coola. Like, we have seen in the past teams, win championships after so long. You don't have to look at Manchester United winning the league in 1993. That came after 26 years, was it, and coming back and winning the league the following year. And it's the same with Liverpool after winning it for 5 years last year. They could come and win it this year. It's Limerick, even Limerick to the degree. I know they didn't win it the following year when they won it in 18 and then they lost it in 19, but then they came back and won it in 21, 22, or in 2020 as well. It sometimes winning the first one can almost be a way of saying, we want to go and win another one now. We've had this feeling now. We want to go and win another one, and kind of prove to people that winning last year's one wasn't just a fluke, or, down to Kilmacud having an off day or anything like that. And I think that's one good sign for Coola as well, that Conor Callahan wasn't playing and they still scored 319. That's very, very impressive going from them, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, I think if I had to pick one of the teams out of Dublin that I think will probably be the most fearful team from other clubs in Leinster, anyways, for the moment in time, moving forward, we can get to the All-Ireland, I'd have to say Kilmacud Crokes.
And there's no question, Crokes definitely do have an aura about them. Like, I've seen teams play against Crokes and I've seen them make mistakes. Like, I've seen teams that wouldn't make mistakes against other teams, but there is a fear factor about Kilmacud now. When you look at, like, they had one move in the game I was commentating on Saturday where Paul Mannion got the ball and he laid it off to Paddy O'Connor, and Paddy O'Connor then laid it off to Shane Walsh. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, in a club game, like, you have them three in your forward line, or Paddy O'Connor was operating more around the middle, but, like, outrageous the strength and talent that they have in that side. And then it's usually the likes of the Darren Mullins and Hugh Kenny's that actually do the damage, because you're so obsessed with stopping Walsh and stopping Mannion, and Darren Mullen always chips in with 1-2, 1-3, and he actually got one of the goals at the weekend against Sylvester's. Now I'll bat the ball to each of you lads. Around the Grounds Football Edition, if you want to highlight one personal championship result that you like, and then if you want to fire it to us for our opinions on it, I'll pass the mic across to you, Liam, first.
I suppose looking at the Kerry Championship, Dr. Crokes are back into the Kerry final once again, and judging by the article that was written in The Independent by Michael Verney, they strode their way into it, so maybe not probably as expected. Seeing here that Tony Brosnan was the star man up front for them, and Shawnee O'Shea was subdued at the other end. So that's never a great sign for them. He is their go-to man. But yeah, look, Dr. Crokes going about their business very, very nicely, back into another Kerry final, and doing it with, I suppose, relative ease, judging by this. Na Gael into the final, producing a powerful comeback to take down Rathmore. They're into the final now as well. And I suppose we can't go a podcast without mentioning some of the scores David Clifford got for Fossa in the Intermediate Championship for Kerry. I mean, I don't like... Ridiculous. He just doesn't seem to have any game at the moment where he's not producing a wonder 2-pointer or getting scores that are just completely out of the ordinary. And yeah, look, I think did Fossa win that game in the end? I'm not 100% sure. I think
they did, yeah.
They won that game in the end, yeah. Look, if they can get up to senior next year, it'd be brilliant for David Clifford and Paddy Clifford, and obviously the rest of the Fossa team as well, to be playing senior football in Kerry next year. They'll take a very hard team to beat in the final. I suppose another result that was highlighted there, actually, and I noticed it earlier, Naas losing in the Kildare Football Championship.
Yeah, no, that's a big one, and that was being talked about there. In the comments, Gavin has come in with this, says Castlereagh had a good win over Western Gaels and Roscommon with a man down. Roscommon with a 20 star this year. John Curran to stay in the senior championship. He said Western Gaels are like our Monaghan. They always find a way to stay up in the relegation playoff against St Dominic's this year, where they bet Strokestown and Tusk in the last 2 years. And Jer backs up saying, yes, Sarsfield's 19 points Naas won 7. And I mean, Matthew, that's a big result. I mean, Naas were seen as somewhat untouchable in the Kildare Championship, so that's a big shake-up in that scene. But what else caught your eye this weekend?
Yeah, I suppose that result really, that was quite a shock. You could see my eyes going up because I actually didn't read that Kildare result. I thought Naas would stroll to the Kildare Championship, but that result just puts Callum to the pigeons, doesn't it? It's a really big result, really big for Sarsfields, who are a very good club around Kildare, from seeing match programs and stuff like that. So, like, it was a big result for them. I seen as well, just out of the corner of my eye, the Donegal Championship, Kilcar beat Glenswilly 420 to 120 or something like that in the Donegal Championship, which was a big scoreline. Obviously, Kilcar have the likes of Paddy McBrearty, Ryan McHugh. Glenswilly have the likes of Michael Murphy in their team. So that was a big result for Kilcar to get over them. It'll be interesting to see the end of the Donegal Championship. Obviously, Guido, Neve Quinnell, be interesting to see how they progress in it as well. Talked about Naas falling by the wayside of Kildare, the championship. I seen as well, just before we went on air, St. Lomans from Westmeath actually lost their game this weekend as well to Mullingar Shamrocks 214 to 116. So it may be a weekend where the favourites kind of topple over, in all honesty, as well. Some other results in the Mayo Championship, I think Ballacolla got a big win as well in the Mayo Championship. They obviously some very interesting results there. Brave, got a big win over Ballintubber, Belmullet. Very good win from their point of view. But the quarterfinals, the draw has been made in the Mayo Championship, actually, which is very interesting. Knockmore faced Ballintubber, Brave faced Westport, Ballacolla faced Ballinasstevenites, and Crossmolina Deal Rovers faced Belmullet. We talked about Crossmolina the other night. They're in the quarterfinals now. They're in as a seed 1 side. You would imagine, like, Belmullet have the likes of Ryan O'Donoghue, but they wouldn't have much else in their team as far as I gather. So Crossmolina will definitely fancy their chances there. I mean, Ballacolla, given their form in the Mayo Championship at this present moment of time, and Ballinasstevenites being defending champions, that's quite an interesting tie. Bravey and Westport, obviously Westport have Lee Keegan, Bravey have the O'Shea's, and all them. Knockmore, Ballintubber is a very interesting encounter as well. Like Ballintubber of Killian O'Connor and all them. Knockmore have been very good in the Mayo Championship over the last few years. I know Mayo clubs haven't necessarily done well in the Con Championship, and that's probably downgraded the championship a small bit. But look at those names there. It should be a very interesting championship. And look at it even more. Like, the more I think about it, the more I think Crossmolina have a huge chance of winning the Mayo Championship. Like, they're on form at the moment. They won the intermediate. There was momentum there. And they're seed 1 side. You would fancy their chance of beating Belmullet. And I think Crossmolina are definitely a team to watch in the Mayo Championship.
Yeah, me too. And I think you've got the enthusiasm and the youth that Kobe McDonald has brought into the team as well. Like, he's looking like a superb talent for the future. Aaron, what else kind of caught your eye before we move on to the last 2 coats?
Yeah, no, I think the big one was Naas losing, like, especially for Philly McMahon, like, going in as Naas manager. Like, it's obviously, as Dublin fans, we want to see him succeed. We want as many Dublin managers to be up there, but it's a difficult one really for Philly McMahon, because like he's like, because Naas have been so successful, like, if that goes wrong, then it's you know what I mean?
It looks like it's squarely at your door, doesn't it?
It's not kind of a great look, but no, maybe 2 results we're highlighting were in the Monaghan Championship. So Clontarf beat through a 224 to 214. I don't know if you lads seen the point Conor McManus scored. Basically scored a 2-pointer from inside his own half.
Should have been a 5-pointer.
Yeah, like absolutely outrageous. And then Scottstown as well. Like, they beat Cromartin Shamrocks 6-18 to 310. So they're motoring along nicely, to be fair. We actually didn't. I had a few people who messaged me from who were Scottstown fans. Like, after our predictions, we didn't even mention them at all during that predictions video. So maybe Scottstown probably deserve a bit of a shout as well. They do obviously have a good bulk of the Monaghan lads in the team. But yeah, like that point by Conor McManus was insane. Like,
yeah, did we get much abuse, lads? Did we get much abuse from that video?
Kilcoo fans as well in the comments.
Kilcoo fans weren't happy either.
Or I got something for saying Pork Pierces. I'll probably get something now when you bring out the hurling reel about my own club now. So
don't worry, I'm in that one with you. Looking back at my predictions, I feel like I kind of hid. I didn't really go outside the block on any of them.
the best thing was in our group chat. Was it you, Matthew, pointing out to Aaron his very first one of Newcastlewest? I think
that's just like vintage, like Gaelic fan TV. Do you know what I mean? Like you go back through predictions. Like I remember I did I did a video I think back in 2023. It was like All Ireland predictions for like the entire year, and it was like a day before the All Ireland hurling semi-finals. And I can't remember who it was that lost. I think it might have been when Ballygunner lost to St Thomas, maybe. And I was predicting Ballygunner to win it, and then literally a day later they go out and lose. It's like, do you know what I mean? It happens all the time, unfortunately. But look, to be fair, I think Newcastlewest are still alive from what I know. I think it's a group stage, so I think they're still there. But it's probably not a great look. I
remember one year. I can't remember what year this was, but I think Nemo Rangers. I'd predicted Finbarrs to win Munster, and the Nemo Rangers beat them. And I think I said it to you, Matthew, that I fancied Nemo to go and win it from there. And then Nemo lost the next game to Clonmel Commercials. And I looked at Clonmel and I go, Michael Quinlivan, Jason Lonergan, like Kevin Fahey, like these fellas have a good team. Do you know what? I'll back Clonmel Commercials. So I got on the podcast, I back Clonmel Commercials. Then Clonmel Commercials lose the next game to Newcastlewest. So I said, do you know what? I'll back Newcastlewest. Newcastlewest then lost to Arrow again in the semi-final. I was like,
Newcastlewest lost the final to Kierans.
Newcastlewest lost the final to Cairns, yeah. And Cairns hadn't even won the Kerry Championship that year. They'd lost 3 games or something, and then because by virtue of winning the county one or the club one? They won the club one. So then they just got put through, even though Dingle had been miles better than them in the most recent championship, and they got to the final and lost to that East Kerry super team with the Cliffords and all the Austin Stacks boys and everything like that. But anyway, we'll carry on with our coverage of the entire weekend. There's more games that we need to cover. There's more games we need to get through. I want to highlight one result in particular. Matthew, I'll go to you to start off for this. It's from the Meath Senior LGFA Championship. So when we were highlighting the LGFA Club Championships, so Matthew, when we were talking about the LGFA Club Championships, we were talking especially about Leinster, and we were saying you are looking at Kilmuckle Crokes or maybe a Nafina or maybe Sylvester's as the front runners to win Leinster. But if there's one team, in my opinion, that can challenge them in the province, it's St. Peter's Dunboyne. They beat Dunmore Ashbourne 119 to 1-5. When you have a player, a forward of the capability of Emma Duggan, you have someone to build a team around, and that's a superb win for them there.
It's a brilliant result, yeah. And they probably wouldn't have been talked about in terms of the Meath Championship because of how strong the Dublin teams have been over the last few years. Like I remember a few years ago, actually, Dunboyne, they still had Vicky Wall in and round, as far as I remember. And she wasn't playing AFLW at the time. And they played, I think it was Kilmacoe Crokes, the Dublin champions, and Kilmacoe just wiped them, even with Emma Duggan and Vicky Wall in the team. So, like, there is always that enigma saying that, look, the Dublin Championship is probably stronger than the Meath Championship. You mentioned Sills there. You mentioned some other teams, like Kilmacoe are clearly the best team in it, and they do have some outside influence, the likes of Alvin Davern from Galway, Niamh Cotter from Cork. Like, they do have some outside influence in that team as well, not just Dublin players. Whereas Dunboyne have mostly Meath players, and that is a big kind of carrot to take from that as well. So yeah, it's difficult to see a Meath LGFA team win the whole championship, but at the same time, it's not impossible. Like Dunboyne do have some very good players, particularly Emma Duggan in their team. And when you look at the other Meath results as well, Dunshaughlin beat Cinchinstown 2-14 to 9 points. Dunshaughlin were in an AIB semi-final or final a few years ago as well. Dave's a group of good players in that team as well. Navan O'Mahony's won 4-15 to 111 over Defina. D Rangers beat Oldcastle 115 to 6 points. I think D Rangers were the intermediate All Ireland series last season and have the likes of Orla Duff in that team. So look, Dave's some good players as well. They'll still be up there in terms of contending for the Meath Championship, but St. Peter's Dunboyne look really, really serious at this present moment in time. Why I wouldn't have them up there with Kilmacoe Crokes at this present moment in time, even with their development stage and stuff like that, it's because they're missing Vicky Wall. Like, obviously, Vicky's gone down to AFLW. That's a huge loss to them. It's a huge loss to each and every club, because it's kind of a shame for every kind of LGFA club that has these AFLW players, because as soon as the intercounty season's over, then the AFLW season starts. They have to go down to Australia. So they can't play club action then. which is a shame. Obviously, we've had this discussion on plenty of our podcasts before about LGFA players and AFLW. Is it actually a benefit to the game? The fact that the clubs are missing these players as well, the fact that some AFLW players come back and they're almost in the professionalised environments, could that be an effect to other LGFA players and stuff like that? Obviously, that's probably a discussion to talk in more depth in another day, but I think missing Vicky Wall will be a big miss for St. Peter's Dunboyne. Brilliant results. I think they'll probably do well in the Meath Championship, but I think still Kilmacud Crokes, you can't look past him to go on and win the Leinster Championship this year.
Yeah, no, I would agree, to be honest. And look, that's a debate definitely for another podcast episode for another day. But the one real warning sign for the LGFA in terms of that balance between the LGFA and the AFLW is the AFLW have expanded. They've added in a new team, they've added in games, and they've moved the preseason back. So they've moved deeper into July territory, which is kind of when the finals are supposed to be. So I think over the next few years, we're going to see more and more of a conflict, because on top of that, the amount of girls going over now, there's 40 Irish girls going over. It used to be 3. And personally, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Premier League-esque style thing where every club will be allowed to have 3 Irish girls playing for them or 5 Irish girls playing for them or something like that, where they would want to guarantee a certain number of places. Because, you know, as Mike Karam was saying, the man behind the AFLW Ireland, it's not like the Irish girls are going over and just filling slots. Like, they're going over and dominating. Like, they are absolutely killing it over there. From the fantasy points in the first week, lads, he said, this is according to Mike, 7 out of the 9 top players were Irish. Like, they're killing it over there. Like, Vicky Wall, Blahin Mackin, like some of the best that we've got, and they're over there killing it. So fair play to them, but it is something that it's not 100% positive. There definitely is worries in there somewhere about how will it impact the LGFA game, because if that perception is that all the best players are going, then the next best players might want to go as well. And then you find it hard to keep your best players playing the game. So we'll see how it develops in the future. But don't forget, lads, there was a while, I don't know about you, but there was a while where I felt like a lot of male players were leaving as well. I remember Aaron, when Kieran Kilkenny went over for a trial and everything like that, and I thought that potentially he wouldn't play for us anymore. So I feel like this is a phase. We'll see what happens, and time will do its thing. But we will move then to Camogie. And Liam, I'll come to you for this. There's key games in the Camogie Championship. The 2 key championships I'm looking at, because I really like the look at Turles Sarsfields. They had a big win over Annaghdown, 4-17 to 115. They've got Karen Kennedy in their team. In my opinion, she's one of the best players in the country. And then obviously the Cork Senior Camogie Championship. And over the weekend, there was big wins for Killala, for Corsi Rovers, and for Ballinora. They all got good wins there. Are there any Camogie clubs that catch your eye in particular from those 2 counties, or indeed from anywhere outside?
Well, I like what you did there, first of all. That was...
I had to.
Yeah, I feel like we'll be hearing a lot more of that over the next while. But yeah, look, a great win for Killa, great win for Turles as well. Even in the LGFA as well, I feel like I should have mentioned as well, big wins for Port Leash in the Leash Senior LGFA as well, and in the Westmead Ladies Football Championship, St Lomans and Milltown have booked their places in the semi-finals in the Senior Championship, and I'd expect both of them, maybe with the Downs potentially, to reach the final there. But yeah, no, look, I think the Camogie results over the weekend weren't too strange to me, to be honest with you. Kind of all the results kind of went the way that I probably expected, especially Turles Sarsfields winning. There'll be a big shout to win the Tipperary Championship this year. And yeah, no, look, I think the Camogie Championship over the weekend was really, really strong. Didn't get the best chance to see all the results from it. I'll be able to get more over the next couple of weeks and try and judge it a lot more there. But judging by what I've seen so far, nothing really jumps out to me now.
And when you look, though, at a club like Turles Sarsfields, I mean, with the pedigree of the club, with the history of the club, when we were giving our predictions for the All-Ireland Camogie Championships, you know, we're talking Sarsfields, we're talking Dixborough. Are Turles Sarsfields to be considered as All-Ireland contenders? Because you're looking at the squad that they have, led by the likes of Karen Kennedy, the history, the prestige of that club. Should they also be added into the mix as All-Ireland contenders?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. like you mentioned there, the history that they have, not just in the men's, but in the women's as well, cannot be denied. And when you've got a player like Karen Kennedy in your squad, then you've got every single chance in the world of winning winning a Munster championship anyways. I nearly said Leinster, winning a Munster championship, and certainly competing for an All-Ireland. I still feel like, look, the likes of Dicksboro will still be very hard to beat. If Thurles were to get out of Munster and to go into the All-Ireland series at Dicksboro, will still be very hard to beat. But yeah, look, I think Thurles are a team that need to be watched out for in the Munster Championship anyways. They'll certainly take a good team to beat. Maybe probably wouldn't be as strong as Sarsfield maybe in Cork, if I'm being totally honest with you. But look, only time will tell. It's still very early on in the season, and they will get stronger as well. They will get better. To put up 417 is a big scoreline, but they'll probably also maybe be concerned with conceding 115. Very, very high scoreline to be conceding. But yeah, look, only time will tell.
Matthew, when we talk about Munster Camogie over the last 2 years, we have been talking about the core clubs usually coming out, like the Sarsfields, etc. Can a Tipperary club or a Clare club or a Waterford club, can any of them challenge the core clubs and knock them off their perch this year?
Well, something did happen like that last year. Obviously, True Clonlara won the Munster Championship last season. And actually, Aaron's prediction for the senior camogie in Munster was very interesting. Galtier, because Galtier, I think that was the Waterford club that got to the Munster final last year to play True Clonlara, and they lost on a free pucks competition. So like any team could win in the Munster Championship. That's the beauty of it. Well, Limerick Camogie is a bit behind, but when you look at the Clare Championship, there's some very good teams in that, including True Clonlara and Tippy, if not just Thurles Sarsfield, but Clonoughty, Rossmore, Drum and Inch. Like Drum and Inch play at the home of Tipperary Camogie in the Rag there, so there is a lot of tradition within that club as well. Waterford have Galtier, obviously from a Cork standpoint, you have the likes of Sarsfields, obviously, as you mentioned. St Finbarrs have some brilliant players in their team, the likes of the Callans, the likes of Saoirse McCartan, the likes of Ellie Wiggins and Barr. So you have some very good players in St Finbarrs, and they are well established at this stage in camogie as well. Like Jim O'Connor would have come from that club as well, so they'd be definitely up there. I think, like, you look at Tipperary, and I think you probably won't look at Cork in terms of senior camogie success. You'd probably look at Tipperary because you had Drum and Inch winning in the last few seasons. You had Clough, Rossmore has some very good players. In particular, the likes of Caught Devan and all them. Obviously, Thurles Sarsfields are not to be sniffed at either. So, yeah, I think it's definitely among the realms of possibility that any club around Munster, well, not in Limerick, but any club around Clare, with Clare probably through Clonlara, but Tip, Waterford, Cork, I think any of them clubs could go on and win it. Like Galtier are definitely up there. Obviously, Thurles Sarsfields, the likes of St Finbarrs, they're all up there. So it'd be very interesting to see who wins this championship, because when you look at Leinster, it's kind of close shop. It's either St Vincent's, Dicksboro, or potentially Pilltown if they come out of Kilkenny. But then when you look at Munster, it's more of an open season. So it's going to be very interesting to see in the next few weeks what does happen.
Certainly so. Lads, we've gone through pretty much everything that I can think of. Is there anything else before we wrap up the show? Anything worth discussing? Any news? I
was just gonna say that I think we're all depressed after today, apart from Matthew.
Well, I had do you know what it was, lads? It was because I was at the game and I was commentating on the Ballybowden versus Vincent's game immediately after the Whitehall Ballymun Kickham's game, and I had to kind of pull myself up after, because I really believed, with 10 minutes, 15 minutes to go, I was like, well, we have them, like, we have them right where we want them. And Aaron, you're right. I think we just ran out of gas a bit, and Ballymun just have so much experience in their team. You're looking at James McCarthy, Dean Rock, the small brothers. They knew how to manage the game out and to get the key scores at the crunch moments. And Dean Rock's 2-pointers, he got two 2-pointers in a row from frees that we shouldn't have given away, but we did. And they really knocked the stuffing out of us and gave the emphasis right back to Ballymun. But always next year, and we've a young team, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm happy that we have covered it fairly well. And that brings to an end our first weekend review show here on Cúilín Media. It's been me, Seamus Brady, Liam White, Aaron Prendergast, and Matthew Hurley. I'm going to go watch the Traders now. I'm going to go get a cup of tea, enjoy my evening. Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much to everybody that commented throughout the video. It really, really helps, especially for the club championships where we don't get a chance to see, like to watch the highlights of every game from around the country. So thank you so much for helping us out. Tune in next Thursday for a weekend preview show where we'll also talk about the news in the GA world and everything like that. But until then, Torah.
Instinct, baby.